do you really have to leave your comfort zone? Hello and welcome to Communication Psychology. My name is Gerhard. I'm a psychologist from Hamburg, Germany, specialized in communication psychology in international, intercultural, and multilingual context. You probably have heard such quotes like, life begins outside of your comfort zone. Now, we are living in a postmodern society in most countries around the world, meaning religion for many people is on the retreat. And if you observe closely the lives of such people that claim to be not religious, you will feel that they somehow have substituted the main functions of religion, of traditional religion, with something else. And self-development is often such a thing. So no longer are we or are they attached to some kind of belief system, religious belief system, but they are still on the lookout for some kind of direction and guidance in life, which can be fulfilled by life coaches or influencers or self-development books. And while no longer having a list of commandments, they now have a list of self-development myths which they believe they need to adhere to. And one of that is certainly the idea of the comfort zone. Now, what's wrong with that? Of course, if we want to learn something new, we need to do something a bit uncomfortable. It's not comfortable often to do some physical exercises. It's not comfortable to practice singing if you believe your voice is not beautiful. That's clear. But for example, how much should you step out of your comfort zone? Is it maybe even dangerous to step out of your comfort zone? And maybe are there also multiple comfort zones? What I've observed, working also with language instruction, I personally teach in the afternoon, evening groups in different languages. We make communication training in different languages. I observed that lots of my participants, being highly willing to step out of their comfort zone in their professional activities as directors of international companies, for example, they have totally subscribed to the mantra of stepping out of your comfort zone. However, in other areas of their life, like learning a foreign language, they very much cling to their comfort zone. For example, and the comfort zone can be something different for different people. For many people, public speaking is very unpleasant. No? And an example that we are all very different, I had a female participant that on the outside appeared to be quite shy. She was at an intermediate level of German, beginner intermediate, and she went to Austria to live there and look for a job. And I suggested her to go to a local chapter of Toastmasters. Toastmasters, an international organization to practice public speaking in German. So I just gave her the idea, and I didn't put too much pressure on her, but she actually went there and participated. Now, for somebody who is an intermediate beginner in a foreign language, who may appear to be quite shy, I think this was a wonderful step out of her comfort zone, and for her it was successful. She managed to participate, so it was a success experience. Now, on the other hand, I have students, for them, listening every day to something in a foreign language, which they don't understand completely, is so out of their comfort zone that it hurts them. They cannot do this. So objectively, it's difficult to compare. Well, nothing bad happens if I'm lying on my bed and listening to languages I don't understand. But for somebody, that's too much. On the other hand, speaking up with foreigners, maybe not too much for somebody. Now, what we need to acknowledge here is first, traditionally in psychological research on this more than 100 years ago, there are several theories, like the Yerkes-Dodson law, that posit that the most productive environment or zone is somewhere in the middle. If you are moderately stimulated, activated, for example, if you have a moderate level of stress, then you function best, means activation, physiological activation. So if you are too relaxed, then learning may not occur. You are almost fallen asleep. But if you are highly anxious in a panic mode, then you will also not be very productive. Now, the problem is that this optimum level differs from person to person, and there are also studies that suggest that you could practice to tolerate higher levels of stress or physiological activation, that is to go far out of your comfort zone and still function well. But what can happen is that people who are too much out of their comfort zone, they may experience too high levels of stress, and their performance will not improve by this. Also, if I push people too much out of the comfort zone, they may have a very bad experience, like pushing somebody on a stage who has stage fright. May not be the best idea to do. He or she may have a traumatizing experience of this. So it often is better to prepare the person how to go outside of the comfort zone. It's like in psychotherapy, if people have phobias or have other kinds of problems, typically it's not the best idea, without knowing the person, to put a big spider on the hand, like, or a snake. It's not a good idea. Now, the problem is, in self-development, we are often self-medicating, and we often believe that we are obliged to do some certain things. It's like everybody expects us to do something crazy under certain circumstances. For example, in the 1970s and 80s, there were so-called encounter therapy groups, and the instructor or therapist, often not very qualified to do this, encouraged people to get physical. So people were beating themselves up during those therapy sessions. And they were certainly out of the comfort zone, but in hindsight, many of those participants, they remained somehow traumatized during their entire lives. So the most important thing to remember is that you're not obliged to anybody to show off how much you left your comfort zone, because, for example, there's research in physical education, so it may actually lead to physical harm. So if you push children, adolescents too far, then they may have the risk of having an accident. There's also a learning zone model. If you think of your comfort zone in the center, then a little bit outside of that is the learning zone. It's outside of your comfort zone. Some learning occurs, but it's not too much stress. And outside of that is the panic zone. Now, also, as I gave the example of managers that are afraid of learning foreign languages, they don't want to step out of the comfort zone, is that we need areas of rest and comfort in our life to strategically leave our comfort zone where it matters most. So if you're trying to leave your comfort zone in all areas of your life, then the result will be probably very stressful and not very productive. Now, what do you think about this topic? Do you subscribe to this idea of leaving your comfort zone? I'm all for doing this personally, but if I start analyzing myself, I see that while on one area I may be very much open to leave my comfort zone, I have lots of areas where I have as much stability as possible, and I have my comfort zones. And if you think about children, we want to encourage children to become socially active, to lose any kind of social fear, anxieties. probably the best thing is if they have a home, a family where they feel comfortable, where they feel stability, safety, and that safety gives them the self-confidence to step out of their comfort zones outside of the home. But if it's not like this at home, then it will be very difficult, and often those children then outside of the home, they become very defensive and avoid any kind of risk because they have it at home already. So if you want me to give a talk or a small masterclass at your company and your team, every month I have 4 slots reserved 60 minutes online for companies all around the world. We need to coordinate some month in advance probably. But please contact me. You find all your contact details or my contact details here. I wish you much success, and please comment what's your take on this. Bye bye.